Okay, welcome to part 2 of our series on these Harmony amplifiers. In today's video we're going to take a look at that H410 right there. Alright, here is the model H410A up on the bench, and first thing we're going to do basically is just open this thing up and just see what kind of state it's in. I know it's filthy on the outside. I mean, you can see that. And it's really filthy. It's just layers of dirt, basically, here on this thing. So I don't really expect the internals to be any different. It's probably going to need some cleaning. Clean sockets, clean pots, clean jacks, all of that good stuff. New capacitors. And then we'll test it out and see what she sounds like. So stick around. As I've shown on my channel before with other Harmony amplifiers, these are kind of weird in that the chassis is actually attached to the baffle. So you have to pull the chassis and the speaker baffle all out in one piece, and the way to do that is to remove these top two screws, and then inside the back here there's yeah, see, there's some little nut driver screws here and here, and there's a couple more on the other side. So you remove those screws and those top screws, and all of this slides out in one piece. Another obvious thing we're going to have to do is change that 2-prong cord right there to a 3-prong cord to make it safer. That's pretty standard procedure. Okay, let me see if I can do this in such a way that you can see. I've already got the screws out. I'll show you what I mean about getting this thing out. It's the whole shebang should come out the back. Let's see. Close. What am I missing? What am I missing? Am I going to have to actually take the speaker out? Surely not. Surely not. It's looking like I'm going to have to take the damn speaker out too. Really? I think I am. Look at here. The speaker just barely won't clear that lip, but the baffle would if I didn't have the speaker in. And the problem is the transformer. Yeah, the transformer's blocking it, so I'm going to take the speaker out to get this thing out. Okay, now that I've got the speaker out, I can attempt again to get the rest of this out. Let's see. Well, let's make kind of two-handed. Jeez, man. Hang on, hang on. Hang on. Here we go. Come on. There we go. Alright. Man, that's a real tight fit right there. Now before I get this all the way out, I'm going to put the speaker back. Make sure we don't poke any holes in it in the process. Alright. Alright. Now then, there we go. So see what I mean? The chassis and the baffle and everything are in there all in one piece, all together. Alright, let's get a little better look at what we're up against here. Like I said, this thing is pretty filthy, and you can see it. The filth just kind of continues on the internal components here. Anything that was facing upward has got a blanket of dead skin cells and God knows what else. I believe, once again, I did not check this tube. It's got so much crap on it, though. I don't know. I'm kind of afraid I'll rub off the tube designation. I'm certain it's a 12AX7. I haven't looked at the schematic yet, but I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Let's see. Transformer codes. Just out of curiosity. 25-9715. That should be the 15th week of 1967. On that one. This one, we'll have to do some digging. Let's see. Alright, that one is... Oh, that's a Schumacher. That's a 606. Same company that supplied Fender for a long time. 1967, 21st week on that one. Small, cute power transformer, really. I mean, it's tiny, but it should do the job for no more power than this amp has. I guess let's go ahead and take the screws out that hold this chassis on, and we'll get a look at the inside. And just a quick note here, while taking this chassis off of these end blocks, that's these little blocks of wood right here on each end that hold this chassis on. It was really on there, and so I can just tell by the resistance put forth by those blocks, that this thing has never been taken apart. It's never been serviced. Of this I am pretty positive, and if I'm wrong, I'll eat my hat, but I'm certain, just based on that this thing has never been apart before. Alright. Well, there we go again, damn it. Alright. Okay. Okay, I may have to disconnect it from that speaker, but let's get a look at it first. Oh yeah, see, this is all original. Those big green capacitors are interesting. I don't recall ever seeing those in any other guitar equipment that I recall. Let's see here, let's get a little more light down here. There we go. Yeah, these big green capacitors, those are interesting. That's more like something you would see in a hi-fi system or something. How cool are those? I guarantee you those are still good. These are probably all still good as well. I was afraid I might see a lot of paper and wax capacitors in here, but I do not. I'm seeing all of these, and these are pretty good and sealed, which means they are very likely still good. And if I was a betting man, I haven't even plugged this thing in yet, and if I was a betting man, I would say this amp would probably fire up right now and work 100%. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and do that and see if I'm right. Alright, I've got this thing plugged into my Variac, and we'll turn it on and see what happens. A little backstory on this amp. I bought this off of Craigslist. Went and met a guy in the parking lot of a Bob Evans. And he said he inherited it from his uncle, I believe, who was elderly. And his uncle apparently had not used it in quite some time before he bequeathed it to his nephew. So I look for this thing to probably need to reform these calves. I'm going to dial it up pretty slowly here. Right now I'm on real low voltage, and I'm just going to slowly dial this thing up over the course of the next, I don't know, half hour maybe or something like that. I won't make you guys sit through all of it. But because of the story he told me, and because of the shape that even the power cord was in, I could look at the power cord, and it had crap all over it, like it had not been plugged into anything in probably decades. So this might be the first time this thing's been fired up since 1967. Who the hell knows? Alright, we finally hit the voltage where this thing is starting to draw down. So the tubes are starting to warm up, and the voltage is going the opposite direction, which is downward. For the first little bit, when you're dialing a tube amp up, it'll go up and up and up and up and up on your power nodes. And then eventually, again, your tubes will warm up and start conducting, and then this voltage will kind of settle down a little bit. And that's usually about the point also where you begin hearing something out of the speaker, which we are now. Just out of curiosity, I mean, the volume is working, tone's working. So already, this tells us several things. This tells us that the transformers are good, the speaker is continuous and good. Well, I don't know if it's good yet, because it still might have a rubbing voice coil or something like that, some other problem. But I do know that at least it's continuous, the coil is. I know all of the tubes work. They might be dirty, they might have dirty sockets, but they do work. Let's see, dirty socket. All I'm doing right there is wiggling this first V1 tube right here. And yes, I know you're not supposed to grab tube amps with both hands. Again, you know, I live a bit dangerously, I guess. Yeah, that's the output tube I'm wiggling right there. You can kind of see it moving. Just dirty to socket. I'm surprised that the pots aren't dirty at all. Like, not at all. Okay, you see this jumping around? With the sound as well. That's the trim. And it works also. And what did I tell you? All of these capacitors are good. So the capacitors are good. The speaker's good. The amp basically works. Let's see. But we can get something through it right now. I'm guessing. If I actually had the guitar plugged in. Yep. Wow, that's a deep trim. That trim isn't screwing around. Wow. Oh yeah, this is going to be a cool little amp. Now I'm going into the microphone input. Let's try the other inputs. There's no reason to believe they'll be any different, but or I mean, no reason to believe they won't work. But just looking at them also, they shouldn't be any different either, because at least I don't think so. No, maybe so, because this one's got a, yeah, that one's grounded, so it probably has about half of the resistance, I would guess, when you go into this one as the other two. Yeah, all these contacts and everything are going to need to be cleaned. See how that changes just by lifting this? See that? So just by lifting this little ground contact right here, what I'm basically doing is cutting the input resistance in half. Very cool so far. We don't even have this thing dialed up all the way. Let's go ahead and dial it up all the way, let it cook for a little while, let the let the capacitors fully form, make sure everything's okay. We'll clean it out, clean all the sockets, clean all of the jacks and the pots and everything, and then we will wrap it back up and give it a test. Alright, we're in the process of cleaning this thing, and the faceplate has come immaculately clean. I've taken the knobs off and cleaning those as well. And now we're getting started on this side of the chassis with the tubes. 12AX7 has come pretty clean, and it is a 12AX7. But also look at this. Let's see if I can zoom in so you can see this. Alright. You see that little Tane, Itane? That's Britain. Great Britain. So this is a Mullard tube. You know, with as much flack as I get from, you know, some people who turn their noses up at stuff like, oh, it's a Harmony. You know, I mean, look at this. This is a Mullard 12AX7 tube. It's this tube alone is probably worth what I paid for the damn amp. And there's another suspected Mullard tube right here. Let's clean this one off. Okay, so here's the cleaned Harmony labeled power tube, and you can see the Harmony written on there in 6BQ5. And if we turn a little further, you'll see Great Britain. Sure enough, and there's a 1022 code right there, 7/26, 1967, 26th week. The 1022 code, there's some disagreement about if you look on forums and stuff. Some people claim that that means that it's a mullered tube made in Japan, but I don't buy that because I have found absolutely no source reference for any of those claims. Nobody has offered anything of the sort, and it says Great Britain on the tube, which I think even in the 1960s was illegal to do. You couldn't import something into the United States and misrepresent the country of origin. So that would have been an illegal thing. Harmony was so big, and in Chicago like that, they wouldn't have imported tubes that said Great Britain on them that were made in Japan. I just don't buy it. But again, you know, you get a lot of disagreement. That's where this kind of apocryphal bullshit gets started. One person will say something stupid on a forum, and then it just gets repeated and repeated and repeated over and over again until somebody comes along to question it. And unless you're like, you know, a big somebody that everybody respects or something, you know, you can never really kill the rumors. So I don't know. But anyway, I don't even know. But what I do know is I haven't found anything to suggest in my reading that that's an actual Japanese tube. I just don't buy it. I thought that's a Mullard tube, as far as I'm concerned, made at the Mullard factory in Great Britain. It has this 4-digit code down here, B6K1, and there's a little M something or other, KM1. But anyway, it's definitely a Mullard also. I'd say between the tubes, you know, this thing is well worth what I paid. And while we're at it, if we're cleaning tubes, we may as well go ahead and clean sockets. So what we do is just spray the sockets a bit, check our tubes, and usually I like to go ahead and straighten pins with my little pin straightener. You guys have seen this before, and unfortunately nobody's making a pin straightener these days. Somebody out there make a pin straightener so I can link to them and sell them for you, because I'm sure I could probably sell a couple thousand of them in the first day. But anyway, yeah, just work your tube in and out, and that'll clean your sockets. Alright, here's the rectifier tube, and the confusing thing about this is that this one does say Japan on it, which kind of confirms what I'm saying. You know, if a tube's made in Japan, it's going to be labeled Japan. It's not going to be labeled Great Britain. Again, I think that was illegal even in the 60s. This one is marked Silvertone, and this is most likely the original tube, and I'll tell you why. Most, as you see there, 639, it's 1966, 39th week, so that's a good indicator that this is the original tube, because it's right there in the time frame that this amp was built. And the thing about, you know, Chicago manufacturers is that they were very incestuous. They would trade parts. They would buy stock between each other all the time. They would, you know, people moved around from one company to the other. So you might have the same guy working at one and designing for one, and then moved over to another company in Chicago. But they were just really incestuous like that, and it can kind of get really confusing when you're studying Chicago manufacturers, because there were it's kind of like studying Japanese manufacturers, because everything was, you know, it's just so confusing. But at any rate, see, this one's actually labeled Japan, so that kind of, that really calls it into question how anyone could ascertain, or assert rather, that these would be made in Japan when they're labeled Great Britain. I just don't buy it. And again, you know, it's not as if this stuff really even matters that much to me. It doesn't matter if the thing was made in Japan or Timbuktu. I really don't care. It's just the fact that, you know, I was just basically saying that to demonstrate kind of how apocryphal information sort of becomes fact if it gets repeated enough, especially in the guitar community. It seems like you just get an awful lot of that. You get an awful lot of people who just don't really know, but they assert. I mean, and I have an open mind. Somebody show me some evidence that 1022 code is a Japanese code, and, you know, I'll eat my hat. All right, let's take a look at this final tube right here, and the surprises just kind of keep coming. I'll show you what I mean. This one also is labeled Harmony, and it is a 6AU6. It's labeled Japan on this one, so we know it was made in Japan. And this one has the 1022 code, 1022-652. Okay, and I think I know what the 1022 code means now. The 1022 code is IEC, or International Electronics Company or Corporation, I can't remember which. IEC probably was issued its own code for the United States market. So it had a code of 1022 as an importer, I would guess. And anything that they brought into the country was probably stamped with the 1022 code. This one being 652, the 52nd week of 1966. But the 1022 code probably is an IEC code, and they were sourcing their tubes from both Japan, in this case, and also Great Britain, as in this case, and also this case, since it said Britain on it as well. So I would say they were pulling from multiple sources, and the 1022 might be an IEC code. So somebody, if you want to research that and then let us all know, feel free. I would be curious to find out. All right, I've fixed a 3-prong cord on this thing, and it's all cleaned up and ready to go. There's only one more little thing I want to do cosmetically. You can see we've got some ruffling going on here on the front grill cloth. I'm going to show you a trick that may fix this, maybe it won't, but fingers crossed, hopefully this will fix it. Okay, we're going to try to tighten this up by using a hair dryer. We're going to put it on high heat and gradually see if we can't get this to tighten up and basically disappear on these wrinkles. If you have headphones, you might want to turn them down. Look at all the dust. Alright, that worked out pretty well. Just a word of caution if you do this on one of your amplifiers though. You will want to make sure that you keep your hairdryer moving. If you stop in one spot for too long, you can burn this cloth. And usually what this cloth is, the reason this works is this cloth is usually made of like a combination of natural fibers and poly fibers. And what's happening is the poly fibers are drawing up and they're pulling all the natural fibers with them. If it was 100% natural fibers, this likely wouldn't work as well. Sometimes you get mixed results. It just depends on what the cloth is made of, and in this case I think it is a combination of both natural and man-made fibers, and that's why it works so well.